An elven warrior trapped on modern-day Earth. Two friends with different destinies meet at a magical school. These are some of the stories we at Electric Lips Comics are working on. You can get your copies of both The Mana Chronicles and Tales of Mithril at elpmerch.com. Support independent creators. Explore the merch featuring exciting ELP Comics art with a wide range of designs. Electric Lips Comics. Imagination electrified.
Welcome everyone to a very special Sunday episode of Conversations in the Void. I'm your host, Graveyard, joined as always with my off-screen producer, Salem. Make sure to say hi to him. He likes hearing from everyone. I am excited for tonight's guest, and that's why we have a special one. He's an artist, cartoonist, and convention promoter. Please welcome to our very first con promoter, Dan Gorman, to the show.
Hi, everybody. How you doing?
Good. How about you?
Good. Getting ready for this Akronomicon coming up. So yeah, we're getting ready for it. February 1st. Yep.
Yes, I'm excited. We're going to dive into that world fear a little bit, but I'd like to get to know you a little bit more before we go into the meat and potatoes of the show. So Dan, do you remember what your first horror movie was?
The first horror movie that I saw as a kid?
Yeah.
Jaws. that was my first horror movie, and I loved it. I love Jaws, and I enjoy all the Jaws movies, even the bad ones. But yeah, I fell in love with Jaws. I mean, I had shark toys in the bathtub, every time I got in there, and that was my favorite movie when I was 5. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Always rooting for the shark. So
of course,
yeah,
he's just an animal. Nothing wrong.
Right, exactly.
Not evil.
Right now.
Yeah, that's awesome for me. That was kind of the first one I saw too, but I saw it at about 3, and it traumatized me a little bit. I was afraid of it a lot growing up, and I remember getting a little bit older, and then maybe 6, 7, started seeing other horror movies. Okay, this is fine.
Yeah.
And
I remember being about 10 years old, and it was the year that Jaws 3 came out.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw it. We were on a family vacation. We went to, I think, Virginia Beach, and we saw it while we were on vacation. But I remember on the way there, being a kid, and having an overactive imagination, and being an illustrator and all that, and I could draw even when I was very young. I came up with the movie Megalodon before Megalodon was Megalodon, right? I came up with it in the backseat of my parents' car driving to Virginia Beach. But that's neither here nor there. So
well, yeah, that's the giant shark. You gotta go talk to Steve Alton, who wrote the Meg.
Yeah, right.
But that's awesome. I had the pleasure and honor of speaking to Carl Gottlieb a couple months ago, who wrote Jaws, and it was a surreal moment for me just to be on the phone with him and just discussing him and his career.
Yeah, we almost had a Jaws lineup for this show. Because it was the 50th anniversary.
50th, yeah.
But we couldn't pull it together in time. It was too short notice. But so maybe
there's still 2025, rest of 2025. There's still time.
Yeah, absolutely. You never know.
Exactly. Yeah. All right, so Dan, this is how I learn to know what you like and don't like about horror. So, is there any movie, TV show, franchise that when someone says I haven't seen this, you make them go watch it immediately?
Oh yeah. In horror or in anything?
Yeah, horror. Yeah.
I think the Scream series is probably the one that I tell when somebody tells me they haven't seen any of the movies. I tell them to at least go watch, the first few. So
yeah. Oh yeah, the first couple. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but that's about that. That's the one. That's the one I think that I enjoy a lot, especially the first one.
Oh yeah, it's a classic. I love it to no end.
Yeah.
Now, so do you have anything that you consider is like very underrated that doesn't get as much love as it should?
I think the Exorcist movies as a whole. I know the second Exorcist movie is panned a little bit. People don't really enjoy that one, but the third one I think is really good. And I think the new one, the first of the new ones that came out, I thought was pretty good. And yeah, I think the Exorcist series is one of my favorite comfort films. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's cool. So the harder question is, flip it over. What is a IP or franchise that you just don't get why it's so popular?
Yeah, I'm not that big into like Hostel, that Hostel
Okay.
series. Yeah, I'm not that big into that. I'm not. Saw is all right. I'll watch that. I think my wife and I have watched almost all of those, but the Hostel series, I don't know. There's just something about it. I'm not that attracted to.
Yeah, my wife does not like newer body horror and stuff like that. The torture porn stuff. She will watch anything in the 80s, 90s, perfectly fine with body horror. That stuff she gets squeamish for.
Yeah.
That's what I like to hear. What your highs and your lows are, so we can gauge between.
Right. Yeah. No, kids, spit and pea soup, love that. Monsters of the Deep, love that.
Obviously,
eating a guy's leg while he's still alive, not so much into it.
Yeah. That's fair. All right, Dan. So let's get into this. I also want to learn a little bit more about you as an artist. So how did you get into illustration and stuff like that? Is this something you grew up with as a passion?
Yeah. So legend is I could draw before I could talk. So I was drawing very young. When I was in kindergarten and first grade, my teachers would have me draw images that they'd make copies of and hand out for kids to color. Yeah. And I always had an artistic ability, and I thought very early on that I would be a syndicated cartoonist. That's what I wanted to be in first grade, was a syndicated cartoonist. Then when I got to be about 12 years old, I think I fell in love with the comic book medium, and I decided, well, I wanted to be a comic book illustrator. And so I spent most of my time from that point on learning the art of comic book illustration, how to tell a story, sequential illustration and storytelling techniques, and all that. And then I went to art school. I had a great high school art teacher who really saw that I had ability and nurtured it, and really helped me fine tune a portfolio to get into school. So I applied to several art schools. I got into the Cleveland Institute of Art. I majored in medical illustration. So I'm a medical illustrator, and I still do some of that work. But then when I turned 30, I decided, I really wanted to pursue the comic book thing. So from that point on, I started doing just random fan art illustration work, going to conventions, and building a network of friends and people who I knew, talking to a lot of editors and everything. And I started doing sketch card work, and I've done thousands and thousands and thousands of licensed sketch card pieces. I'm currently working on 300 cards for Topps right now for a Star Wars project. And and then I started doing some comic book work in 2011. My first published work is in FemForce number 158. It came out that year. And then I've been published by Dark Horse, Caliber Comics, Second Sight Publishing, Source Point Press, several small publishers. And then last year, actually the summer of 2024, I live in a community where there are a lot of talented comic book illustrators. Like, we're all from Akron, and there's a whole bunch of us, and we had seen each other at conventions, for years and years and years and years. And then we finally decided, hey, let's team up and let's help each other out, instead of competing against each other. Let's form our dream was to form like an Image Comics type art studio.
Yeah.
So we did that. We did that in July. Route 8 Studios. We have an office in Stowe, Ohio, and we released our first book in November called United, because several of our original characters are knights of some kind. So they are all in the same book, and the book's called United. That came out in November, and we're currently working on some other projects. We're going to do a horror themed sequel to that book to come out November of next year. We're working on a fantasy illustration pinup book, and we're also planning to do an illustrated calendar this year. So we've got a lot of stuff. Yep.
Now, do you think your kind of your degree in medical illustration is going to help on the horror side to draw as much gruesome and as accurate as possible?
Yeah, so that was the idea. The idea was, in the back of my mind, I was first of all, I went into medical illustration because I thought it would be a sustainable career in illustration. There were a lot of avenues for maintaining, the ability to eat and keep a roof over your head as an illustrator if you had a medical illustration background. So, but in the back of my mind, I always thought, who can draw a superhero or better than someone who knows the human anatomy inside and out. And that has also helped with some of the horror comic book work that I've done. And I tend to do a lot of horror comic book work for several of the publishers that I work with. And I'm currently working on a story, a 3-book story that I think is going to be collected into a graphic novel released by Source Point Press as soon as it's done. I'm trying to finish the 3rd part right now, but that's based in horror, and there's a lot of stuff that goes on in there where my medical illustration skills kind of come into play. So it did help.
That's awesome. I've been talking about this for a while now. I'm trying to convince my co-host. I want to do like a 3 to 5 limited run horror comic where him and I, because we have another show, we review movies weekly. And we just get stuck in the B horror universe, and just and just us realizing that we're stuck in there, and just kind of having the B universe and knockoffs and stuff like that. I think that'd be fun to do. I cannot draw worth crap.
That's a great idea. Well, hey, I've got an art studio, so if you wanna put something together, we'll get to work on it. Yeah,
like I said, my co-host, he is a writer. He likes to write, so. I'm lucky enough to be the face of the show.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Do you ever think that when you're doing horror that you ever go too far, or do you ever not go far enough, do you think?
So I do a lot of work with a writer. His name's David Hayes. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he does he writes a lot of horror work, horror content for Source Point Press. And most of his stories end with somebody getting eviscerated. So there's really no limit. Like when I work with him, he basically says, make it as horrific as you possibly can. And so no, I don't know that there's a line to cross. I know there's Kringle. There was a graphic novel called Kringle, which was a collected story of horror at Christmas.
Okay.
And David Hayes wrote all the stories in that book. I illustrated the backup story, which was about a Christmas tree that murders a family of 4 on Christmas Eve. And there's a scene where the wife rewards the husband for bringing home the Christmas tree, and my wife can't stand that page. So, so there's no line. There's no line that I don't think I haven't crossed. And then the one that I'm drawing right now, this is also a David Hayes written story. A lot of nudity, a lot of male nudity, a lot of female nudity, especially in the last book. A lot of blood and boobs is basically there's a lot of
as
that.
horror is, right?
A lot of that in the 3rd book. So
yeah, I mean that's awesome. I happen to know the guys that write Night of the Chihuahuas.
Oh, okay.
Have you heard of them?
I've heard of the book. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's essentially what if Resident Evil but Chihuahuas.
Yeah.
And but it's just absolutely hysterical. I love those guys over there. And I have one of the artists actually made this logo behind us for us.
Oh,
and he's doing some work for horror parody merch for us as well. So
excellent.
We're just trying to have fun with that.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So with all this and with your comic book team, stuff like that, is that how you got into the con world, or how did you really get into that?
So the first thing that happened was in 2006, I decided I needed to head down the road that I wanted to be on from the very beginning. So I had sort of a fortuitous encounter with another artist named Robert Krause. He people know him as Rack. He created Shakan, the Forever Man, which was a Sega video game.
Okay. Yep.
And he kind of took me under his wing and kind of showed me the way, showed me how to get started and what to do. And so I followed his advice. I put together I drew some images, some fan art images, and I went to Pittsburgh Comic-Con. And that was my first Comic-Con, and in 2006. And I was shocked that people were buying my stuff. So I thought, well, maybe I'm on to something. So I did more fan art, and from 2006 until 2013, I did a lot of conventions, primarily as a fan artist. And it wasn't until 2013, 2014 that when the comic book career started to pick up. And I really started doing a lot of trading card art or sketch card artwork for various, publishers, that I didn't have time to do the fan art. And not only that, but I wasn't very excited about doing the fan art anymore. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do my own thing.
Right.
So I set out to do that. But then along the way, in doing all of these conventions over the years, I really paid attention to what worked and what didn't. I knew that, I saw that this worked at this show. I saw that this did not work at all at this show. And I kind of mentally took notes, along the way as I did that. Then in 2018, my partner in the business, Jason Miller, he and I had an opportunity to do a convention in Akron. And we went ahead and we did it. And it was, we kind of took the George Lucas approach, as though if this was the only convention we were ever going to do, what would we do? So we blew it out. We did everything that we wanted to do at that convention. We had wrestling, we had DJ, we had everything. It was crazy. Now, our biggest mistake was we charged too much at the door. So the attendance wasn't as good. But we also learned that how to book guests, how to contact guests, and how to price our conventions, and how to run the whole thing, right? So in 2019, Akron Comic-Con actually had been founded by two other people. And they founded the show, but they were a little older than us, and they didn't want to continue with the show. So they were going to cancel the show. And we said, no, we shouldn't do that. If you're going to cancel the show, I think you should at least let us have a crack at it to keep it going. So we came to an agreement. We purchased the show from them, and that was 2019. We had an amazing show in 2019. And then we took everything that we learned from 2018, applied it to 2019, had an amazing show. And then COVID hit, right? So we had to get through COVID. We actually, the year of COVID in 2020, we had a big show planned, but we had to cancel everything. And a lot of our vendors were begging us to do something because everybody was, dying on the vine. There were no in-person events. There's nothing. So we worked with the city of Cuyahoga Falls, and they allowed us to do a small show, and we called it Pandemicon. So,
Okay.
yeah, we called it Pandemicon, the show you never thought you'd live to see. So, so, so that did really well. Actually, it was a really good show. Of course, we had the people who were like, "Oh, I can't believe you're doing this," whatever. But then the following year, 2021, we came back with a pretty strong show. We had Sergeant Slaughter as our main guest, and that went really well. And from there, it just kind of started to pick up. This past year, Akronomicon was our best show, and after last year's show, we decided, what, we wanted to expand and do several other shows. So we wanted to do a horror show for sure. We had done a couple horror shows with another promoter called Dark Christmas, which went moderately well. But we wanted to take the Akronomicon template and see if we could reproduce it for a horror show. And we did exactly what we did for Akronomicon, everything down to the last detail of advertising and everything. And we had a great show last year, but last year it was called Monster Fest Mania. And we had to change the name because Monster Mania New Jersey threatened a lawsuit. Oh. So we had to change the name. So what we did was in February of 2024, we had people submit names. What do you want this show to be called? Let's make it your show. And what show do you want it to be called? And then in March, we did a bracket. We did a March Madness bracket to vote for what the name of the show was going to be, and Akronomicon won. Okay. So that became the name of the show, and we went from there. And along the way, several other people started asking us, "Hey, can you help us with the show? Can you help us with the show?" And so that's how we got involved with the city of Lorain. We were supposed to do a show in Lorain in 2020, but COVID wiped that out. But now we're back, so we're hoping to get a date for that soon. Lil John from Big Chuck and Lil John is local television hosts who used to host like Godzilla movies on Saturday afternoon. Lil John wants to do a show with us, so we're doing a show in September with him. Our local AA baseball team, the Akron Rubber Ducks, I draw comic books for them. So every year they do a show called Quackerin' and we run Quackerin' and then we've got several other plans, in the works. And in 2026, hopefully, we're working on that right now. We're going to do an Akron Comic-Con cruise. So to the Caribbean. Yeah, to the Caribbean. Yeah. So we're hoping.
From Ohio? That's impressive.
Well, you got to get to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So.
Okay.
So it just has grown. It's grown and gotten bigger over the years, and I think it's because we've been very successful. We've done, we've said what we were going to do and did what we said. We're very, we treat people with respect, and our focus is to make sure that all of our guests and all of our vendors make money. Them making money is more important to us than us making money. So we do everything we can to get enough people on the floor, enough people through the door, and promote our guests and our vendors so that they're successful at the shows.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's we at Horror Dad, myself from our show, and Horror Dads, the movie production team I'm part of, we actually did Days of the Dead in Chicago this past November, and we had a table as just a table for people to meet and be able to talk about our movies and stuff like that. And it was an absolute blast. It was our first time ever doing that. And so it turned out really well. Yeah.
You'll be at our show, right?
Yeah. Pending no heavy Midwest snowstorm. Yes.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Hopefully. Oh, keep your fingers. It was great weather last year. So hopefully it'll be.
Yeah. I just, my wife's like, I don't want you driving 550 miles if it's a snowstorm. Like, that's fair, I guess.
Yeah. It's a snowstorm. We'll figure it out. But yeah, like, no, I'm excited. It's our plan is to do more stuff like that. And with our show too, I want to do kind of something funny when we go to different cities. Is when we do Chicago, I want to do, parody merch, horror parody. I want Jason
takes Chicago instead of Jason takes Manhattan.
Oh,
Jason at iconic Chicago stuff. I kind of want to do that. Like we're going to do the Indianapolis one, I think, in June.
Yeah.
Jason takes Indianapolis, and just parody stuff like that, because it's funny because he was in Manhattan for a whole 5 minutes in the movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Right. Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is your second full year then of the Akronomicon as that title, right?
This is our first full year as Akronomicon. It's our second year doing a horror show of this kind. Dark Christmas was a hotel show, and Dark Christmas has to be a hotel show because of the events that we have, the schedule, the way that we do that. So there's a chance that a Dark Christmas could happen again. But Akronomicon is kind of like a horror version of a Comic-Con, and people really enjoyed it last year. We have a cosplay contest with prizes. We do everything that you would do at a Comic-Con. It's just horror themed.
Yeah. It's astounding the growth that has been in the horror world, because let's face it, horror cons were always little corners of Comic Cons forever, right? Now it's growing, it's blowing up, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
that's awesome. So who do you have planned for this year then at the show here in a couple of weeks?
I knew you were going to ask me that, and I'm trying to. So we got John Abrahams. We have Lou Temple. We have Eddie Deason. We have Tina Kraus, Morrigan Thompson Millam, Lisa Neild, James Edwards. There's a whole list at the Facebook page.
Yes, I do have the link to it in the description below.
We have Victoria Price, daughter of Vincent Price, Tony Isabella, a horror comic book writer. There's Kelsey Livengood, Chris Hahn, Linda Jo Miller, who was in King Kong Escapes, 1968, somewhere around there.
Oh,
nice. It's a full house. I mean, we have a lot. Also, JSA is going to be there, so they'll be certifying signatures, both for books that you bring or signatures that you bring in through the door, and for any of the signatures that you get while you're at the convention. So yeah,
that's awesome. I believe Sean is going to be there too, right?
Sean Burkett.
Yeah.
Yes, he will be there.
He was on the show a couple of weeks ago. He was absolutely amazing. I love the guy.
Yeah. He seems like a good guy. Yeah, so we're excited. We're excited to see him.
Awesome. Any other tidbits you want to show out to the con before we start getting into our wrap up questions?
No, everybody's just come out and have a good time. You can get tickets. You can pre-buy tickets at akronomiconhorror.com. You can also, tickets are always available at the door. Kids 10 and under are free. If you see any other information about them being $5, that was early information we were putting out, but we've decided just to make all kids 10 and under free. There's a costume contest with prizes. There's going to be a horror movie marathon running all day up until the cosplay contest, which will close out the show. So just come out, have fun, dress as your favorite, slasher or, victim or whatever you want to dress as, and enjoy the show.
That's awesome. I just wear all my favorite slashers on my sleeve. So.
Oh yeah. Oh, there you go. Yeah. You're always ready. I'm
always ready. Always ready. Yes. Yeah. All right. So Dan, let's get into these wrap up questions here.
Yeah.
So, we asked every guest, and only one person's ever answered one way of this question.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
Practical or CGI?
Oh, practical, 100%.
Yeah. Only one person's ever said CGI.
Oh no, I mean, the practical effects are just so much better than the CGI. The CGI, you can always get tipped off, especially in a horror movie, right? Like the CGI in a horror movie takes you out of the element, and it's not scary at all. It's just not. There's no threat to a CGI, effect. But when the effects are practical, like Puppet Master. I mean, if, that's that all has to be practical effects. I mean,
right.
You can't do CGI puppets. That would look stupid. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I was discussing with my producer and co-host of another show we do. We talk about like we did the I Am Legend trilogy, right? And there's always the talks for number 2. And we go, what they need to do is leave everything the same in the movie except the CGI and update it for 2024, 2025 computers.
Yeah.
And to see how good it can really look. Like I said, leave everything else the same.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I can't I saw I Am Legend, the Will Smith one, once. I'll never watch it again because I can't handle the dog.
Yeah.
I can't handle it. I cannot take it, and I will never watch the movie ever.
That's fair. Yeah. All right, Dan, if you were able to work in an IP or franchise in the comic book world, even of your choosing, what's your dream thing to draw for?
So, if you would ask me this 10 years ago, I would have said to be a Marvel artist. But I've done some Marvel work on the trading card side, and it's possible I may again in the future, but I don't know that there is an IP that I would want to do artwork for that I haven't already, or that I'm just chomping at the bit. I have to get it done. I'm actually at this stage of my life, I'm actually more interested in drawing, my original characters and telling my stories, as opposed to telling stories, of someone else's characters that are maybe already have been told, So I'm more interested in getting what I had to say out than anything else.
That's perfectly fair.
Yeah.
All right. So any advice for people that want to get into illustration or even make their own con?
Yeah. So if you want to run your own con, you might want to consider doing something else. I'm at some point I'm going to write a book, and the title of the book will be called "So You Want to Run a Comic-Con," because that's basically what happened to us. We were like, we can run a Comic-Con. I mean, look at what these guys are doing. We can do this. That's no big deal. Be careful what you wish for. But if you do really want to run a Comic-Con, pay attention to what other Comic-Cons are doing. Take notes. Note the things that you like. Note the things that you absolutely don't like, and talk to some of the promoters. Try to get a conversation going with some of the promoters, because I'm sure, because some promoters don't want you, getting in their pool with them, but other promoters don't have a problem sharing information. Like I don't have a problem sharing information about what we've experienced, what we've gone through, pitfalls that we've hit, that, if we would have known better, we would have avoided, and if I can help someone, avoid some of our mistakes, I'm more than happy to do that. Was there a second part to that question?
Yeah. What about get into illustration?
Yeah. Getting into illustration. So the easiest way to get into being an illustrator is to just do the work. Just create illustration work. Make sure you have, your basic social media accounts up and running. Instagram, TikTok. I don't even have a TikTok, but I should. And either X or Facebook, most likely Facebook, and promote yourself and create a basic website that is easy to find and that is clean, and just present your artwork. Like mine's even a little bit too cluttered. I need to clean mine up a little bit, but make sure it showcases your best work, quality over quantity, and make yourself easy to find on social media. So in your social media headers, make sure you use your real name and your real picture. Don't use an avatar, because editors want to know who they're hiring, and they want to know, don't use a fake name. Don't use like, Yoda loves snakes 224. Use your real name, and make yourself very easy to find. And if you do that and you do good work and you are constantly reevaluating yourself, every time you do a piece, every piece isn't going to be perfect. You're going to do a piece, you're going to like it. 3 days later, you're going to hate it and you're going to want to burn it. But that's the maturation process. That's the growth. So if you're going through that, that means you're growing, and you don't burn the piece because somebody's going to like it. At some point, somebody's going to buy it. Somebody's going to see it. Somebody's going to want it. Trust me, it's going to happen. Even for I do have one story about a really terrible piece of artwork I did, but somebody will want it. Just learn from that piece everything you can that you didn't like, and apply those lessons to the next one, and just repeat that process. And after 100 times, you'll start to see improvement. You'll start to get better. You'll start to see results, and people will want your stuff. So the only way to do it is to just get out there and do it.
Yeah.
So my very, very first convention sketch ever, was an Obi-Wan Kenobi. Very first one at a convention in New Jersey. I only charged the guy like $10 for it, right?
Okay.
Several years, like a decade later, it came up on eBay, and I saw it, and I was mortified by what it looked like. So I bought it. and when it came to my house, I didn't even take it out of the envelope. I tore the envelope up and threw it away.
Oh, wow.
I hated that piece. I looked at it and I was just mortified by what I had done, and I destroyed it.
Yeah, as someone that does many shows a week and I have to edit myself, trust me, I get the feeling. Yeah. Awesome, Dan. So you ready for your random horror trivia question?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I'll get it, but we'll see.
All right. What 2021 film stars Chris Rock and Samuel L. Jackson in the 9th installment of the Saw franchise?
What is the name of it?
Yeah.
Oh. I don't know. I saw you, mother.
Close.
I don't know. I don't know if I have the answer.
Would you like to know?
Yeah.
Spiral.
Oh, okay. I have no recollection.
No one has recollection of that movie. We did all Saw franchise when Saw 10 came out in 2023. We did a recap and did all of them for our other show.
Okay.
And yeah, Spiral was just so bad.
Yeah, I never would have imagined that those two actors would have been in a Saw movie together.
No, it seems like it's just sweaty Chris Rock and sweaty Samuel L. Jackson in Detroit. So.
Gotcha.
Awesome, Dan. So before you give us your pluggables, where can people find you and follow you, learn everything about what you do and the cons that you run?
Yeah, so on my social media, I'm a GDan artist on X, Instagram, Dan Gorman Art on Facebook. You can find our shows at akronomicon.com, akronomiconhorror.com, and my artwork. You can see my artwork at dangormanart.com, and everything has links to emails and everything, so you can contact me through my websites. It's not a problem.
Awesome. And I talk about the not being on TikTok. I am an old man. I refuse to use TikTok. So yeah, I'm trying to get someone to run a TikTok for me. Actually, our intern at Route 8 Studios is manning our TikTok, so I'm not even worried about that one. But no, I don't think I could ever pull myself to do it. Like I said, I'd have to hire someone to do it for me because no desire.
Yeah, I know. I'm the same way.
Awesome, Dan. Well, thank you for joining us this evening. I hope you had a good time.
Yeah, it was great.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks for
Yes. So thank you everyone for watching this live and watching it in the future. Make sure to follow us on all social media at PodOutatNight. We'll see you next time. And don't get lost in the void.
All right. See you later.